The hostile alien energy blasts ripped into the human exploration ships, shattering hulls and vaporizing crew as Captain Billy Crawford frantically ordered evasive maneuvers. They had come to this uncharted star system in 2257, seeking peaceful contact with the advanced Iridian civilization detected on the third planet, but were met with immediate and overwhelming aggression. The human fleet barely escaped the onslaught, limping back to Earth with heavy damage and casualties. News of the devastating first contact with the Iridians spread like wildfire. Grim-faced world leaders gathered for emergency meetings as an uneasy panic gripped the populace. If the incredibly advanced Iridian technology was turned against Earth, humanity would face certain annihilation. Somehow, a diplomatic solution had to be found, and fast. All eyes turned to Captain Crawford to lead a second expedition, a desperate mission to open peaceful relations with the Iridians, or die trying. He assembled an elite crew, his trusted second-in-command, a brilliant xenolinguist to communicate with the aliens, and hardened space marines ready for anything. They outfitted their ship with Earth's most powerful weapons and defenses, but knew it might not be enough against the Iridians' godlike technology. As Crawford's ship approached Iridian space again, a gigantic alien mothership appeared on their sensors. The menacing visage of the Iridian leader, Orin, a fierce reptilian warrior, filled their view screen. "Surrender or be destroyed, primitive Earthlings," Orin snarled in perfect English, scales bristling with hostility. Crawford felt the weight of humanity's fate on his shoulders as he signaled his crew to battle stations. He met Orin's glare and uttered the words that would decide Earth's destiny. "This is Captain Billy Crawford. We don't surrender. We stand our ground. Tell your fleet to stand down and let's talk peace. The only other option is war." Silence fell over the bridge as human and Iridian faced off, weapons locked on each other, both knowing the survival of their civilizations hinged on this moment. Crawford clenched his fists as energy blasts hammered his ship's shields. The bridge shook with each impact. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles. "Evasive maneuvers! Keep us moving!" Crawford barked. His crew fought valiantly, outgunned, but not outsmarted. They ducked and weaved, avoiding the worst of the Iridian onslaught. But it wasn't enough. The mothership loomed on the display, its weapons glowing ominously. Crawford made a split-second decision. "Henley Patel, gear up, we're going in." Moments later, they were cutting through the Iridian hull. The airlock hissed open. Strange, acrid air flooded in. Alarms blared. Armored Iridians charged forward, hissing and snarling. Pulse rifles flashed. Crawford's team returned fire, advancing through choking smoke. Lizard-like bodies hit the deck. Deeper in the ship, they found it, a cavernous chamber bathed in eerie light. At the center, a massive crystal pulsed with power. "That's it. Set the charges," Crawford ordered. But as they planted the explosives, a cold voice echoed behind them. "You dare invade my ship. You will pay for this insolence." Orin stepped from the shadows, eyes blazing with rage. His elite guard fanned out, weapons trained on Crawford's team. All hell broke loose. Laser bolts crisscrossed the chamber. Men screamed and fell. Crawford took aim at Orin, but a searing bolt took him in the shoulder. He staggered back, gritting his teeth against the pain. They were surrounded, seconds from being overwhelmed. With a defiant yell, Crawford hit the detonator. The world went white. The crystal shattered, unleashing a cataclysmic shockwave. Crawford's team ran for their lives as explosions ripped through the mothership. Somehow, they made it back. The Iridian ship broke apart, secondary blasts tearing through its hull. The fleet was in chaos. "All ships, focus fire. Hit them with everything we've got," Crawford roared. The human fleet rallied, pouring missiles and plasma into the disarrayed Iridians. Orin's ship, trailing flames, turns and fled. The aliens were in full retreat. Ragged cheers filled the human ships. They had done the impossible, struck a devastating blow against a superior foe. But as Crawford slumped in his chair, clutching his wounded shoulder, he knew their fight was just beginning. Earth had been spared annihilation, but the Iridians would return. And when they did, Humanity had to be ready. This was only the first battle in a war for survival, a war they couldn't afford to lose. Earth erupted in celebration as Crawford and his battered crew emerged victorious from the mothership's wreckage. Ticker tape parades filled the streets, the heroic captain's face plastered on every digital billboard from New York to Shanghai. For a brief, shining moment, humanity reveled in its triumph over the alien invaders. But in the shadowed halls of power, grim-faced leaders pored over ominous intelligence reports. The Iridians were no mere localized threat. They commanded a star-spanning empire with resources beyond comprehension. The mothership was but a lone outpost, a fraction of their true might. Against such a foe, Earth's fleets were but a mote in the cosmic ocean. Urgent conferences were convened, plans hastily drawn. If humanity hoped to survive the coming storm, it needed a miracle. And so Project Prometheus was born, a last desperate bid to steal the Iridian's technological crown. Dr. Sanjay Patel, still shaken from his brush with death aboard the mothership, found himself thrust into the heart of the project. In a secure facility hidden deep beneath a desolate stretch of desert, he probed the secrets of the captured Iridian crystal. Days bled into weeks as he pushed himself to the brink, fueled by a potent mix of stims and adrenaline. But the crystal yielded its secrets, one grueling step at a time. Exotic energy fields, quantum entanglement on a scale unimaginable. The Iridians had mastered the very fabric of the universe. Under Patel's guidance, human technology made centuries of progress in mere months. Vast fabrication plants sprung up seemingly overnight, churning out sleek warships and advanced weaponry. Lieutenant Jake Henley, aching to avenge his fallen comrades, burned with new purpose as he whipped Earth's next generation of warriors into shape. In stark white simulators, they waged endless virtual battles against snarling Iridian avatars, honing their skills to a razor's edge. 5 years to the day since Crawford's fateful encounter, humanity was ready to unveil its terrible new arsenal. 1,000 ships, each a sleek predator dripping with weaponry, slipped their moorings and pierced the heavens. Iridian security forces suddenly found human dreadnoughts looming over their outposts, energy cannons charged and ready. And at the tip of the spear, Crawford. His eyes had never left the prize, the Iridian throne world, Orin's seat of power. He would rip the Lizard King from his palace with his bare hands if he had to. But it wouldn't come to that. Not yet. As Crawford's drop shuttles punched through the atmosphere, their weapons struck with devastating precision. A surgeon's scalpel backed by a giant's strength. Iridian defenses crumbled, power grids dark, their armies thrown into disarray. Crawford hit the ground running, pulse rifle barking in his hands. His commandos fanned out behind him, a well-honed machine slicing through all resistance. Orin's elite guard fell in droves, their weapons useless against the humans' new armor. At last, he found himself face to face with his nemesis. Orin snarled, lashing out with razor-edged talons, but Crawford was no longer the same man he'd toyed with 5 years before. He countered with a crushing blow, slamming the Iridian warlord to the ground. "It's over," Crawford growled, armored boot pressed against Orin's neck. "Surrender now, and your people live. Fight on, and see your empire in ashes." He opened a channel, broadcasting his ultimatum to every screen and speaker on the planet, and beyond. The Iridians would submit, or humanity would finish what it started, regardless of the cost. Crawford stood before the towering doors of Orin's prison cell, his heart made tight. The Iridian leaders' continued defiance threatened to unravel everything they'd fought for. Something had to give. "Captain, we've got a situation," Dr. Patel's voice crackled over the comm. "I need you in the lab immediately." Minutes later, Crawford burst into the research facility. Patel's eyes gleamed with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "We've done it," he said, gesturing to a pulsing Iridian crystal. "We can interface human minds directly with their tech. The psionic potential is staggering." Crawford's mind raced. "You're saying we could get inside Orin's head?" Patel nodded. Precisely, but it's risky. We'd need our best people. Get me Henley, Crawford ordered. The plan came together quickly. Henley assembled a strike team of the most promising psychic candidates. They trained relentlessly, pushing their newfound abilities to the limit. When the day came, Henley led his squad through the winding corridors of the Iridian command bunker. Alien guards swarmed them, screeching battle cries. Energy bolts sizzled past as the humans fought their way deeper. They reached the final chamber, a cavernous space dominated by a massive crystal matrix. Orin floated at its center, tendrils of energy coursing through his scaled body. Now, Henley shouted. The humans linked minds, channeling their collective will through the crystal. Orin's eyes snapped open, filled with fury. He lashed out psionically, nearly overwhelming them. But the humans pushed back harder. Memories flooded between them. Earth's blue skies, the taste of freedom, the warmth of family. Orin's hatred crumbled under the onslaught of human experience. When it was over, Orin's eyes held a new light. I understand, he whispered. Within hours, the capitulation order spread across the Iridian Empire. Weapons powered down. Ships stood idle in space. The war was over. Crawford watched as Orin addressed his people, preaching coexistence and cooperation. But he knew the real work was just beginning. Centuries of Iridian imperialism wouldn't vanish overnight. As the first human diplomats arrived to begin negotiations, Crawford couldn't shake a nagging worry. They'd won the war, but at what cost? The line between human and alien had blurred. What would that mean for the future of both species? Jake Henley stood on the cracked pavement of Elysium's capital, his boots crunching on broken glass. The acrid stench of smoke filled his nostrils as he surveyed the destruction. Twisted metal and shattered concrete stretched as far as the eye could see. Sir, we've got more reports of rioting in Sector 7, a young peacekeeper reported, her voice tight with stress. Henley nodded grimly. Deploy squads 3 and 4, non-lethal force only. As the soldier hurried off, an explosion rocked the ground. Henley stumbled, catching himself on a nearby wall. Sirens wailed in the distance. This is getting out of hand, he muttered. The comm on his wrist crackled to life. Lieutenant Henley, your presence is required at the Central Plaza. Urgent. Henley's blood ran cold. He knew what that meant. Minutes later, he arrived at a scene of utter chaos. The plaza was a war zone. Bodies lay strewn across the ground, human and Iridian alike. At the center, a smoking crater marked where the podium had stood. Orin! Henley shouted, spotting the Iridian leader's prone form. He rushed forward, dodging panicked civilians and debris. Dr. Patel was already there, his hands flying over a portable medical scanner. How bad is it? Henley demanded. Patel's face was grim, critical. The neural link is destabilizing. If we don't... The doctor's words cut off abruptly. His eyes rolled back in his head and he collapsed, twitching violently. Medic! Henley bellowed, but it was too late. A wave of psychic energy erupted from Orin's unconscious form. Henley felt it wash over him, leaving him dizzy and disoriented. All around, Iridians clutched their heads and screamed. The ground shook. Henley looked up to see massive warships descending through the atmosphere, weapons blazing. Oh God, he whispered. Energy beams lanced down from the sky, carving furrows of destruction through the city. Buildings toppled, the air filled with the screams of the dying. Henley's comm crackled again. All forces, this is Captain Crawford. Fall back to designated rally points. Prepare for immediate evac. As Henley sprinted through the burning streets, herding shell-shocked civilians toward the spaceport, he saw Iridian troops turning on their human allies. Pulse rifles flashed, cutting down peacekeepers where they stood. This can't be happening, Henley thought, his legs shaking. But it was. And as he watched Crawford's flagship streak across the sky, heading for the heart of Iridian space on its desperate mission, Henley knew that nothing would ever be the same again.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.